All right. So I am live. Okay, so I guess I just didn't do a good job of giving like reminders about the live stream, so that's on me. And then also like with the video, hopefully there are some chatters or people who will come in, but I didn't see anyone come in on the stream. So I'm just gonna record a live video, and if you guys watch it after the fact, that'll be that, and we can discuss better ways next time on making for a better live event, so to speak. So bear with me. I guess this is, oh, well, I see people are joining. Okay, yay. Let me try to make sure I have the chat up so that way it can be engaging. Sorry about that being so ridiculously confusing. Um, but yay, I'm glad. Okay, so for starters, oops, let me mute that. Okay, so for starters, I'm gonna ask you guys, I'll get your comments delayed, but how did you guys feel about the book? We read this month, How Long Till Black Future Month. And while you guys are responding, I'll just let you guys know I love the book. Like, if you hated it, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Or if you liked it but not loved it, that'd be cool too. I ended up giving this all in out 4 stars. And I mean, there were some stories in there that I didn't vibe with like as much. Where there were like 3 stars and there was 1 2-star for me. But for the majority, most of these were 4 stars within here, within the short story collection. And I had, I believe, 3 5-stars, if I check correctly. Yeah, 3 5-stars. Okay, so I'll just start talking about like my favorite stories, and you guys below, you guys let me know what were some of your favorite short stories within this collection, because I would love to see if they like match up or not. But my favorites were the Fluent Engine, which that one, not to be biased, you guys know. Oh, hey, G. Okay, I see you didn't get to read it yet. And that's another thing. So I don't even know. I feel like I may postpone it because even me, while reading this, I enjoyed it thoroughly. But you know, it's a short story collection of science fiction, which kind of like science fiction in itself, it's like world building where you have to, I don't know, you have to kind of like sit with the stuff for a little bit to digest it all. And some of the short stories I found myself rereading. And even up until today, I was literally still finishing. Like, I finished the last 2 short stories today. So, you know, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like I have to like really fully like accept that world and be in the world. So I really feel like if you read 1 or 2 of these a day, it would be great. There's 22 short stories within this collection completely. But I guess back to like some of my favorite ones, I will say definitely the Fluent Engine. That one was about a Haitian spy. And you guys know I'm of Haitian descent. So I was like, let's see how she twists this, because she's not of Haitian descent. So you're always wondering, like, you know, how is this going to play out, and if you're familiar with the culture or not. But being that she made it science fiction and she made it otherworldly, where it was like this combination of New Orleans culture with Haitian culture, was just mind-boggling for me. I loved it because I feel like there's so many similarities in Haitian culture and New Orleans culture, and clearly our cultures, there's an influence there. So the fact that she used that and wrote this story was so interesting to me. Yeah, it was very interesting to me because essentially she set it up as to shortly after Toussaint Louverture's death, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Haitian Revolution, but Haiti is the first Black nation to gain its independence through a successful slave revolt. And one of the prime leaders of that was Toussaint Louverture. And although technically he died before it was, you know, the declaration was given and all that other stuff because he was captured, he is seen as like the founding father of Haiti, like, or Haiti. And she goes into some of that history there, and I was just like, she did it with such grace and respect on historical accuracies, but she developed this completely new, oh, sorry, something else. Yes, I have read, Mina asks, have I read Breath, Eyes, Memory? Yes, that is by Edwidge Dundicat. For those you who do not know, I have read that. I love Loved it. I read that in college though, so it's been a minute. I tell myself I wanted to reread it, but such good stories, and I was like, yeah, love it. But anyways, back to, I'm all over the place. It's gonna be funny watching this back. But back to the short story itself. It's a woman. She is a Haitian spy, so she is undercover here in New Orleans, and she has to get this certain equipment, this certain thing, in order to help defeat the French completely, like in order for them to not come back. Because like in Haitian history, if you know, 1791 is when the first slave revolt resulted in Black people taking control of the island. And from there, the years that followed, the French and them were constantly at war. France was trying to get back control over Haiti, and that's historically accurate. So the fact that shortly after that she goes off, she's here in New Orleans, and she's here as a spy to try to get this equipment. She runs into another pair of, basically you can call them scientists, another woman who is a scientist, and there is an interesting story that plays out. It's difficult because is anybody in this chat actually read the book? Because I'm scared to talk about anything if people haven't read the book, because I really wanted to discuss it from a perspective of if you read it, but I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't. Because that story in particular, okay, so I should say, yeah, she said she read it. Okay, look, all I need, okay, someone else read it. Okay, all I need is one person. Okay, so disclaimer, if you haven't read it, you may, I love you, but you may want to catch the replay. So that way I'm not spoiling anything for you. But, okay, bye D. But, oh my gosh, did you guys see that twist coming? I kind of felt like there was tension with that main character and the girl, but I thought, how many layers is she gonna put into the story where she made like a love story between these two women, and it was like science, it was, I don't know, it was just a lot. I really love that story, and I kind of, if I had a chance to interview or talk to that author, that is a story that I would want to have a full book out of. But y'all let me know what some of y'all favorites were. I'll go on to my next 5-star. That was I have how many 5 stars? I only have 1, 2, I only have I have 4 or 5 stars. So I only have, 4 or 5 stars. Is the Fluent Engine, which was about the Haitian spy. The other one that I had was the Storyteller's Replacement. That one was about the dragons. I don't know if anybody else was into that, but I really liked that story. I was over there like, ooh, let's see how this plays out. And I really felt like it was a story being read. And the fact that there were some badass, like, young girls, even though they might have been probably evil, who knows? The way that story just kind of played out, and the fact that I just pictured it. I pictured all those little sisters all speaking in unison, and it being super creepy and super kind of weird with these beautiful little girls, and then them like kind of having this master plan where they basically take over. I just was like, who comes up with this? What type of imagination do you have, NK? Like, what kind? So I really liked that one. The other 5-star that I gave was the Narcomancer. I don't know if I'm saying that one right. Which, oh my gosh. Okay. So that one was really, really good. And that one was, it's hard to describe because it's basically about that lady who had like a curse, who couldn't have kids, essentially, so to speak. And then we find out that actually it was just more so she wanted to choose who she actually has a child with. And there were layers to that one, and I just loved how it was done. And even that analogy with the horse and all that other weird stuff, I was like, I really felt it. That was one that spoke to me. And then the Sinner and Saints one, the last one, which I actually finished today, which is crazy. Like, that's how last minute I was to the last minute. Sinner, Saints, Dragons, and Haints in the City Beneath the Still Waters. Oh, okay. Sasha asked, as I pause, how did I feel about The City Born Great? That's so funny. That was one of my 4 stars. And I don't know if I was being more critical in the beginning, because I think that was the second short story that was part of it. But when I was reading it, I really enjoyed the story. But I think it was because initially I was so confused when I was reading it. So I actually had to reread the beginning over and then complete it. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. But it really was close to a perfect score to me. I was like, because at first I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, how are you gonna born a city? Like, my brain couldn't wrap around it. Hey, Rachel, Ray. My brain couldn't wrap around it for the longest. So I was like, did I pick the right book? Like, I'm not lying to you, because at first, the first story that I read, I was like, okay. And then with The City Born Great, it took me a minute to get into it. But then once I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what's gonna happen next? Is she gonna save New York? Or is he gonna save New York? And all that. So I really love that story. It just didn't quite make my 5-star list. But from the reviews of other people that I read, that was one that people constantly talked about that they really loved. What I found interesting, though, although I love science fiction, I found that I more so related or enjoyed. We basically are talking. I know I need to figure out a way. It would be so dope if it could be like, oh, but that might be weird if it was like all these different chats going on where people could just keep talking. But I found what was interesting was the stories that I gravitated to more weren't necessarily like I don't want to say weird, but like science fiction, like the Jim Crow story. What was that one? The Jim Crow one was, I forget what it was called. Oh, Red Dirt Witch. That one I gave 4 stars, but that one I connected to a lot, where I was like, that is a creative, I wish I wrote that story, like a creative perspective where you're sitting here and you literally have the dreams of the future of how things are going to play out. And even if Black people as of now were oppressed and we're struggling, and maybe that oppression will never end, you can see the progress. So yeah, that one was good, because it was like, wow, like I don't know, I can't imagine, like I pictured myself as I am now dealing with a lot of, the stuff that we see all the time. And it's like, when is this going to end? When is racism really going to end? When are all the isms going to end? And you don't really see an end in sight. So sometimes that could be discouraging. But to imagine, like, if you were back then and you somehow had this vision and you can play out and see how one day there's going to be a Black man that's president in the White House and all this other crazy stuff, like that would be mind-boggling for them at that time. So how much more will things be mind-boggling like in the future? So yeah, that was one of the other ones that I really enjoyed, primarily because I felt like it felt normal. Like I didn't feel that otherworldly. Another one that felt really interesting. Crap, I wish I remember the name of the one where it was like the girl who was striving for basically almost like perfection. But really she was just striving to be the best, and not even really the best to compete with other people, but challenging herself to always be better than her last. Valedictorian. Thank you, Rachel Ray. That story I really enjoyed, because it was like, even though it was science fiction, it was literally like, I felt like even if you don't care for science fiction, you could relate to the character, you could see the otherworldly, and you could really picture like you're in this room surrounded by all these people who want you to just conform, and like, what's wrong with you? Something's weird with you. And you think you're crazy sometimes, like, what? I just want X, Y, and Z. And I don't know. I just felt like it was a good play on how society kind of sometimes wants you to conform. And if you're too far out of that box, as much as people say they accept you, they kind of really don't. And also like the friends around you, where sometimes if you're exceeding at a certain rate or something in their eyes or not, like kind of the reactions to that. So I don't know. I thought that was clever of the author to do that. Another one of the ones, which it didn't make one of my favorite, like 5 stars, but I enjoyed that cooking one where it was the, like that weird story where it was like, the lady, she was like really into cooking, and the guy was trying to challenge her on her being a chef. And oh, did I list your top 3? That's so funny. And it was like, really, it was, you said that one was wild as heck. Yeah, because it was really like you making people young, like you're really making concoctions, making these spells. But I felt like that one was really good storytelling. Like I pictured the rooms that they were in, I pictured the stuff that was being made, and it was like visually pleasing. It didn't even really seem that weird to me. Oh, you was like, hold on. I didn't really think it was that weird. To me, I say these are one of the ones that I felt like were more normal. Like I could picture this in real life, but really, who really makes spells and makes these weird concoctions where you could stay young forever? But the writing made it seem like I fit into that world. However that may come off. But yeah, so those were like the ones that, oh, I didn't talk about the U Train. The U Train, it was so short. Well, I don't even know if it was short. But I like the message in the U Train. I felt like, even though the message was told from a single woman's perspective about, that was the one basically where the lady, she was, I'm assuming in New York, I believe she was in New York, and she keeps talking about these different trains, but she also talks about her life in corporate America and like just the annoyances of some of that stuff. And then also like having to come home after working all day, being bored. And no, that one was Memory. Oh, Rachel said, Ray said, oh, not that one. I thought you were talking about the Memory Restaurant. I was originally talking about that, but the way my brain works, I hot jumped and skipped to the other story that I said wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I enjoyed, which was the one with the lady on the train. Not that she wasn't on the train, but it was with all this little trains, and she was talking about being single and kind of like having to come home after a long day at work, but you also don't have anyone to talk to. And the whole story is told like she's talking to a friend, but we don't ever hear the responses. I don't know. I felt like with that story, even though it wasn't like necessarily my favorite story, I really liked the messaging kind of in that one, because it seemed eventually she figured out and found her own happiness, and she kind of respected that her friend also has her own life and her own trials of being a mother and being a wife and all that other stuff. So I thought that was a little cutesy one, and based off of the author's introduction, which I didn't even talk about the author's introduction. I loved that intro. I don't know if you guys actually read the intro, but for me, the intro, it kind of inspired me. Like, I don't know if I ever have dreams of really publishing. Let me say, I would love to publish one day, publish something. But I don't know. I just appreciated her intro, because her intro was talking about more so of her struggle of before, when she wasn't really having anything published, and kind of, okay, speak it to existence. Yeah, so I will be publishing. Thank you, Mina. But no, on a serious note, she was talking about the piece of advice that she got was to start writing short stories. And for me, it was almost like alignment. Like, it was really interesting because I have all these random ideas and I start writing them, and then I don't really finish or know how to tie out, or sometimes I finish but I keep going back and editing and not really perfecting them and trying to figure out to lengthen them and all this other stuff. Like, I need to get writing basics down, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And that advice that she received about perfecting short stories, while reading it, I started to do that as well, and I feel like it's going good. That's all. I feel like my writing is improving. So that was something immediately, like just in a month, that I'm already seeing. Oh my gosh, did you really? Oh, Rachel Ray, she says she has a recorded review of this coming up, and she's touching on a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here. Ooh, I cannot wait to watch it. Yeah. You know, I actually feel like this probably would have been a good recorded video, so I'm excited to watch yours, because it's such a weird, like, there's so many stories in here. It's such a weird, I don't know, collection of, almost, you feel like there's different writers who contributed to this, but it's really just her. And I'm like, wow, you're such a good writer, because how can you think of all these interesting stories that are somewhat different and also have different writing styles? Like, some of the writing styles were completely different from the story right before it or after. So I was like, Use is talented. I also said, someone said, do I annotate? You know what? This is funny. I annotate, but I only annotate when it's like a book that I own. I actually got this, silly me. I only actually got this on library, you guys. If you follow me, you guys know I always get library copies first, because I read too much, honestly, to buy every book out there. And library that's still supporting. But this book I'm owning. Like, oh, that's the other thing. So I read about 75% of this book. Towards the end, I told you guys I was really struggling and some of the ones I wanted to reread. So I actually got on Audible. I purchased this one on Audible as well, which I don't know if I would recommend it for Audible. I would say you have to give me some more time. I think I enjoyed reading it more because even the last few that I said I finished on Audible, I enjoyed it, but I didn't get as lost into it. I'm not one of those people who have anything against audiobooks. Like, I feel like a lot of time audiobooks work better, especially if it's like history text, or sometimes if it's like a memoir, you're hearing it in that person's voice, that story, it really becomes a more real experience for you. But some books I feel are better to read, and for whatever reason, my initial reaction is I enjoyed actually physically reading it versus listening to it, even though it's the same information. And hey, Sherry. But if you like audiobooks, I mean, they had different narrators from what I could tell for the last few stories. Like, I think the narration changed like at least twice, and on the credits, it was different voices. So I think that might spice it up. But science fiction is so tricky sometimes where I feel like you need to be reading to really be paying attention. Granted, I was multitasking, so I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Sherry Maple said that there are a few books that she listens to as an audiobook, but it kind of depends on the narrator. With Robin Miles, she's always good, I think. There's different, that's neither here nor there. I'm on a tangent. But as far as this particular book, I preferred reading it than the audiobook. But this is one that I'm going to actually purchase, and I'll give you guys a final update or thought some way, shape, or form. Oh, I've never heard of that. Sherry Maple said The Sellout by Paul Beatty is a great narration. So I never heard of it. But okay, hopefully on the playback, I'll peep that on the chat and make a note. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about, there was one story. So I said all of these had at least 3 stars or above. There was one story that I didn't really connect with, and that was The Evaluators. I gave that a 2-star, and I'm actually going to have to go to my notes to even remember. Like, that's how you could tell it's a real 2-star, because I don't even remember what that book or that short story was about. But that was the only one that I think I didn't actually connect with. Did any of y'all read or remember The Evaluators? I don't remember it. I should have had better notes on that as to why. Maybe I just didn't get it. Because even looking at it, it's not even ringing a bell besides one of them looks like Tandy, and I thought of Tandy Newton. But anyways, yeah, so hi, Bridget. Glad you're attending as well. Yeah, I guess this live stream, though, you know, I don't know. I figured... feel like I kind of discussed or talked about pretty much all of the ones that I really, really, really loved. I mean, there's some that were for 4 stars that I didn't talk about again, but Genesis was one of those. Too Many Yesterdays was another one that I thought was really good. And yeah, that's pretty much, those were the ones that I'll say. Because also the other bank, so River Lex, that's not the right title. Oh, On the Banks of the River Lex. Crazy. I don't remember what that one was about, but apparently I rated it a 4-star, which is tricky because sometimes the titles don't ring a bell to me, but the actual story themselves did. But okay, I'm going to wrap up, I guess, on the live chat. I would love for you guys to chat. Was there any stories that stuck out to you that you guys wanted to discuss, or just anything else, I guess, since we live anyways, as far as Black History Month and how your readings went? Yes, I had mentioned that one. That was one of my 5 stars, Rachel Ray. Rachel Ray said she loved the one with the king and his dragon daughters. That one was really good. And that one, what was that one called? That one was called The Storyteller's Replacement. That was one of my favorites. Like, yeah. I just thought it was so dope. Like, I could picture those little girls growing up to be like crazy little killing little monsters and conniving little girls, and then set their little babies out there to kill that man. And I'm like, wow, you guys are smart. Yous is smart. And I can't even say you're really evil, because that's like the judgment line where their dad was like so vain essentially, where he was just like trying to spread his little seeds out, and he wasn't even really doing it by his own strength. Again, he was like seeking out other people's or other dragon's strengths, and kind of like made it seem like, oh, I just had women kids, which people do, not realizing you gave birth in a weird way to these 5 crazy strong females. But anyways, but yeah, was there any other things, I guess, in Black History Month or with this particular book that you guys wanted to discuss on the live chat? This is my first one, so I don't know. How's it going? Really, I don't really know. I'll see if I missed anything in the chat, because you guys know I'm doing this on a different screen. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So there's some other book suggestions that are coming out, but I haven't read either of those. Okay. Well, I will say that was really cool for live. I guess for live, next time I'll do a better job of reminding people about the live and probably having a little bit more to discuss about it. This was kind of short, I guess, but I guess we can enjoy the rest of our Sundays. Probably gonna catch up on my Love and Locked Up. And I'll see you guys on the flip side. Have a great Sunday and a great Monday. And if that's it, I'm gonna say bye. Bye.